Hello, everybody. We've got a bunch of people on already, but I think we'll probably have a bunch of people joining here momentarily. If you are on and have not checked in the chat, if you would say hi so we know who's here. I see we have Dawn. Hi, Dawn. And we have Pat. Hi, Pat. She's joining us from Maryland. We have Jennifer. I believe Jennifer's in Colorado, and Julia's in Virginia. Scott, of course, in the Midwest. And Sheila, I forget where you are. I want to say it's somewhere in the South. Are you in the South? I think so. I think you guys are somewhere south. And Net is here. You see my friend Net has joined us on screen. Net is from the Hershey area in Pennsylvania, and she's going to help me. Net and I know each other. I'm just going to go ahead and go to the Net slide. I'll come back to some of these, but Net is a colleague and a former colleague, a current colleague. She is a world traveler, a camper, a minimalist, and perhaps the most curious person you will ever meet. She reads books nonstop. She reads books for me and tells me about them. She reads books for herself. She reads books for friends and colleagues and just asks some of the best questions. So I wanted Net to be on this because of her curiosity, but also because she is one who experiments in AI. I see Doug Moore, but I bet it's actually Betsy Moore. I bet she's just their shared YouTube account. Might actually be Doug, though. They're over there on the couch. I'm actually at Doug and Betsy's this weekend. We had a little fall travel reunion with Doug and Betsy and Steve. So I'm in Columbus. So thanks for joining, everybody. I'm going to go back to the beginning slide and just give you a brief outline of what we're doing tonight. We are going to just quickly do some introductory stuff. I'm going to share what the upcoming events are because I often hear from people that they don't know what's coming up from events. And then we're going to jump right into why AI and what are some of the ways that you can use AI as an RV owner or a new camper. And then the last part is how to write a great AI prompt. And you don't want to tune out for that because if you use AI just like you use Google, you're really missing out on what it's capable of and how it can help you. There are some better ways to write AI, and I have stumbled through learning that. I started out just using it like a search engine and have learned some tips and tricks, and Net has too. So we're going to show you, do some hands-on demo on how you might use AI, and hopefully you'll gain some tips from that. Net, anything you want to add?
No, I'm very eager to have a conversation because I think there's a lot of power for us, people like us, in using AI. And so I'm so glad that you chose to do this topic. This is a great thing to talk about.
Yeah, I think if nobody came, Net and I would enjoy spending the hour talking about this. So I hope you enjoy it as well. In terms of upcoming events, the Ohio and Pennsylvania Tabs and Friends have a meetup April 25th through 27th at Salt Fork State Park. And these meetups are all owner organized. You don't need to necessarily sign up with us or anybody else. Just make your reservation. So for the Ohio, Pennsylvania ones, you can make them at reserveohio.com. May 12th through 16th, Scott Hausman has organized a great event at Brown County State Park. Last time I saw, there were over 50 or right at 50 campers, that's camping units signed up. So way more than 50 people. And you can make a reservation for that at reserveamerica.com. Scott, if you have anything to add in the chat, feel free. And then June 8th through 15th, which may sound familiar to you because that was originally the week we would do UCamp. There are a bunch of folks who used to camp at Timbercrest who still want to get together at Timbercrest. So they have organized what they call We Camp. And that reservations for that can be made by just reaching out to Timbercrest Camp and RV Park. You'll leave them a phone message more than likely, and they'll call you back. It may not be right away. Don't worry. They're not necessarily the most modern organization, but they'll call you back, and they're super nice. And then, of course, August 4th through 8th, we have UCamp. And UCamp is if you don't know, UCamp is the annual rally that New Camp hosts. And this year it's being expanded to add over 60 sites, if I remember right. And not just tabs. This year we will have Barefoots and Cirrus truck campers also represented. So that's sort of cool that with more campsites, we can also have different types of New Camp campers. And then there's one more that was added after I created the slide, and that is in July. And Dawn, help me out with the dates. It's toward the end of July. We are going to be at Laurel Hill State Park in Pennsylvania, and that reservation can be made at reserveamerica.com. It's actually not the end of July, it's sort of the middle of July. And so any of the Ohio, Pennsylvania events, you can also find information about on Facebook in the Ohio, Pennsylvania Tabs and Friends Facebook group. We'd love to have you join. So hopefully that's helpful, and we'll see a lot of you there. We've had a few more people join. Hi, Bonnie. Hi, Larry. Thanks, Dawn. It's July 18th through 20th for the Laurel Hill State Park event. Before we jump in the content, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to all the folks who are channel members. And we've got some folks sort of cut off with the note, so let me hide it. We've got some folks who've been a member for over a year, and I want to say thank you to them, Julia, Stephen Joseph, and Bonnie. And for anybody who just stops by and watches, I always appreciate it. So thanks for joining us. All right, so let's jump right into the AI content. I knew there would be some reaction from the topic when I posted it, because AI seems to be almost all anybody wants to talk about. Net and I were just talking about some rumors we heard about some big business purchases made in order to support AI. And you're seeing the government move toward AI. You're seeing businesses. I know that some of the clients I work with are interested in AI and how it can make their businesses more effective. So it might seem a little odd to talk about how camping can impact AI, but the truth is AI has already been integrated into the things you already use, and you may not even realize it. And AI isn't nearly as new as you might think it is. When I started digging into AI, I realized that it really goes almost back to the 80s, when you started to see early machine learning and other technologies emerge that have led us to where we are with generative AI today. And so there's no need to necessarily be overwhelmed or concerned by it, because you're already using it. It's integrated into technologies with camping reservation websites and other tools you're already using, and it will continue to be integrated even more. You're seeing it on cell phones, for example, and it's going to, I think, be as a regular part of our lives as a Google search is today. So, that being said, Net and I were brainstorming about some of the use cases for AI. And some of the things we want to talk about today are trip planning, how we both have been using it for trip planning, for problem solving and repair, for new owner orientation. And we'll also just do a little group brainstorming about other ways we might use it. But you might be wondering, why use AI? And we find that it saves time. The curation that comes with AI that you can do by setting more complex parameters and doing more complex requirement setting really gives you more personalized results and better quality results. And also there's greater nuance with an AI, using AI, than there would be with Google.
Exactly.
So before we jump in, I'm curious, has anybody on the live stream used AI to help them plan a trip yet? If you have, I'd love to hear about it in the chat, and sort of how you went about your search and what your results were like. Nat, I know you've used AI for some travel planning. You want to talk about that for a second?
You bet. Yeah, I'll watch the chat too and see if others have as well. So I recently returned. This was not a camping trip, but I just returned from Norway on Tuesday. And we were in a given city, and I just asked Chat GPT, is what I've been using, propose an itinerary for a 7-day trip to Norway. I want to see the Northern Lights. I want some other activities. I want some restaurants. And I was so impressed. I was given like a well organized, laid out 7-day plan. First thing I always do is confirm that the restaurants they're telling me are legit, because Jenn, I'm sure you'll talk about what's called hallucinations. Earlier days, it just made stuff up, but everything was there and it made it so easy. I didn't have to go digging through, tons of Google searches and different websites. It just proposed something and then I could go from there. And I'm doing the same thing with the trip. I see people are talking about a 30-day trip in Western Canada. Bonnie, that sounds amazing. And I'm doing a trip as well in the fall, going to the Tetons, to Yellowstone, and up to Glacier. And Jenn, working with Jenn, she's like, well, put this in there and put that in there. It's so beautiful. I am so pleased with the results. Now, you still have to do work, obviously, but rather than starting with a blank piece of paper, I have a great itinerary to start tweaking, and it just makes the planning so much quicker to get started. I've been loving it. Can't tell you how much.
Yeah. And, you can set your own preferences because there isn't a set of preferences that is sort of standard for everybody. We all like to camp differently. So sometimes I'll put in things like, find me public campgrounds or state and national park campgrounds that are still open after September 15th. Or I will say I prefer a scenic route versus highways. No more than 275 miles per day. Or no less than 275, no more than 350. Also I've used it to help me understand what the weather might be like based on historical weather patterns. So even though it's January, tell me what kind of clothes I'm going to need in September in Glacier National Park.
Yes.
It can help you with packing lists based on that. It can also help you, what I would classify as a local guide. What are some of the top places to eat near there? Or maybe you're into museums or galleries. It can help you find those things. And could you do a Google search for all those things? Sure. But you can also make it a more complex search with AI and do it all together so that they're integrated and it delivers one set of results instead of having to do multiple searches. The other thing about AI is if you use the same AI tool over and over, it gets to know you. It knows your preferences and it starts to give you feedback and responses based on your preferences. Nat, have you found that to be true?
Yes. Yeah. So I have started thinking about AI as a personal assistant, and a personal assistant, if it was a person, does get to know you. That's the whole thing of a working relationship. And so as I teach people about using AI, I'm like, talk to it like it's your personal assistant. And she or he, however you think about ChatGPT, I'm like, she will get to know me and start giving me more personalized results. And so, it's exactly that. I use it a lot. And I think I've seen this, personalization grow over time. So someone who's just going in there every, couple of months may not see that, but I use it every day. And I see that.
Which tool do you use the most, Nat?
Well, so Jenn, you just introduced me to Copilot. I didn't realize that was a free tool. I'm all about free right now. So I've been using ChatGPT, but you hit a limit. And so I do it and then I'm like, okay, I got to plan my time better, be more efficient, but I am getting more efficient. I'm learning about prompt building. And so I don't have to tweak as much. And so I don't have to ask as frequently, the same thing over and over. But I do want to start using Copilot, which you have explained to me is free. I see it. I have not tried it. That's my next step. So right now I'm a ChatGPT girl, but I'm moving to Copilot as well.
And, if you aren't familiar with those tools, they have both desktop versions and mobile versions as well. So It will follow you from your phone to your computer and vice versa, both of those tools. And there are several others out there. Bonnie, I'm curious which tool you use. And if anybody else is currently using AI, what tools do you use?
She said ChatGPT in her.
You're right.
She really said that, yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be the most common one, the one people know. Steve B is asking, what about Gemini? Gemini seemed to come along a little later. It struggled at first, and it's starting to catch up, but it's integrated with Google. Yeah, there are a ton of tools out there. It's really hard to keep up with all the tools that are emerging. So I stick with Copilot because I use that for work. They do have a pro version you can use, and you can get a business version that integrates with Microsoft Office. And when you use it, the one thing you should know is you don't want to put a ton of personal information out there, because then it goes into the agent or the large language model. It learns it, and it could show up in an answer. It's not hugely likely, but it could. And you wouldn't want medical records or anything too personal out there. And when you have a professional version that's integrated into Office, they sort of protect that information from going into the public domain, into that large language model.
So Steve does have a question, Jen. Does Copilot have a limited time period, the free version? It's just, there's a max every day is what I understand. Is that true, or is it a limited use?
Yeah, that's what I understand too, Nat, that it's a limited per day. It's not like 1 month or anything like that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's really, when we get to the prompt writing part, we're going to actually show you the power of this, and we're going to show you how Net and I, we sort of created a prompt that we might use together, how we go about it. So you'll get some real hands-on practicality. But if you don't get stuck worried about how to word a prompt. Just get out there and start experimenting, because I know I learned from just by doing and trying different ways to craft the prompts, using different requirements, different qualifications, and sort of coaching the large language model in how to interact. Jennifer says,
yeah, I'll read it out to you, and then I want to comment. So she used ChatGPT earlier today to find some boondocking sites near Parker, Colorado. It gave her some general information, but it hasn't yet learned the details of what I'm looking for. And so when I read that, I'm like, the details that it's learning about you are somewhat subtle, and it does take time. I would still be specific about, I want a flat site overlooking X, or I want X number of miles from a grocery store. You still need to be somewhat specific in your prompts early days. I feel like what it learns about you, Jen, is somewhat more subtle than maybe this question might lead me to think. Will you talk about that, like the subtlety of how it's learning what your preferences are?
Yeah, it is a little more nuanced. I think you're right. It's not like it's going to remember that Jennifer is just always prefers boondocking,
right,
and always prefers this type of site. That's why there is some skill required in the prompt writing to give it the parameters and the requirements. I think one of the things that really was eye-opening for me is when you ask a human to do this type of thing, it has assumptions built in. We all have these biases, these points of references that we don't even realize our brains are accessing when we're thinking. The AI doesn't have that context. So you have to give it a lot of context. Now, when you give it context, often it will remember it, but it's still not, I gave it to you once and it's done. It starts to, it's this, as Net described it, this relationship that starts to get built, where when you give it over and over, then it starts to be like, oh, okay. You might still have to give it the parameters, but it's not going to have to work as hard the more you use it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, context is so key to a good AI prompt search. Now,
you don't realize until you put something in there and it gives you an answer. Well, for me, it gives me an answer. I'm like, oh yeah, that's really way off. I didn't tell it this thing that I just assumed that someone would know about me. It's just a very interesting experience to see where your biases are that you don't even think to mention.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. The human brain is so much more complex, and we access so much more information and do so much advanced thinking without even realizing it.
Exactly.
That's the one thing I think I've taken away from AI, is just really how amazing the human brain was created to be. It's just impressive.
100%.
So I'm going to go to the next use case because I want to make sure we get time to get to the prompt writing. Using AI for diagnosing common RV problems is probably a surprising use case for some. I think we might Google a problem, but using AI to help us solve a problem is a little just mind blowing when you think about it. I tested it one Saturday morning and I thought, I wonder if it could help a new user
Yes.
understand their ALDA error codes. So I put in a couple of the ALDA error codes that people share all the time and asked what it was or how to fix it. And it came back with incredible answers. In a lot of cases, it linked right to a New Camp Tech Talk, where not only did you get an answer, but you got a link to a video that showed you how to fix it. So it can save a ton of time of searching through a forum or reading through a manual. It's great at summarizing documents. So if you have a manual, it will automatically go find that manual. So you might not want to say just ALDA. You might want to say, I have the ALDA 3030 and I'm getting this error. Can you tell me what it is and how I need to fix it? And you'll be surprised. We'll show you some of that as well when we do the demo. But it's a great troubleshooting step because you can put in, with Google, you would just mostly put in a search for the ALDA error. With the AI tool, you'd want to put in what kind of camper you have, what model year, what the circumstances were that you got the error. Like I just pulled into my campsite and I plugged into shore power and I got this error, so that it's giving you a more intelligent response. I tried a couple other things like, how do I think I tried the 3-way fridge. That's a common one for older tabs. How do I get the 3-way fridge to stay lit? And it gave me some troubleshooting steps. So it's almost like having a little tech support. Now, is it going to replace a human anytime soon? Probably not, but it can help you with some really basic and early problem solving. Have you tried it for any problem solving like that, Net?
No, but as you're speaking, I'm thinking. So I don't have a tab camper. I just have what I call a micro van, and it's multi-purpose. It's not for camping only. But we're figuring out solar, like the whole solar thing, and batteries. And I'm sitting here thinking, maybe I should prompt it to just give me a little tutorial on like, what do you need to know when you're starting to try to like power a camper with solar, and these are the details. This is what I'm using. Like, I'm just completely, I don't get it yet. And I know that you do training on that because a lot of people don't get the whole solar battery charging, all of that. Like, I don't even know the words to say. So I'm thinking perhaps I'm going to start working with it and have it teach me, like just be a little tutor. I know schools use AI for tutor support. So maybe I get tutored on, the whole solar thing. I don't even know what to ask at this point, but it'll train me, I'll train it, and we'll see where we go.
That's a great example, Nat. If it were me starting, I think back to when I first started learning about solar and batteries.
Yeah.
It would have been so much easier because it would also have put it into language I could have understood.
Right.
When I started learning, everything was very technical. It's much more accessible now, but you would just, I think, start by saying, I own a van, I camp in it.
Yeah, I'm new.
I'm new. I want to understand. Yeah, I want to understand what I need to know about setting up my van for camping. Will you teach me about batteries and solar and what are, a few things I need to know to get started?
Yeah, what are some of the pitfalls? I always like to know, like, what are some of the things that can go south really fast? So I would put that in there as well. Yeah. As you were speaking, it's like, I'm going to go do that. Not tonight, but very soon before I start camping again in the spring. I need to learn more. So yeah, even I am learning as you're talking. I'm like, this is great stuff. Love it.
I've used it in a business context to check what I understood about something. I'll say, I understand this to mean this, this, and this. Am I right? And it will say yes, or it'll say almost, and it'll clarify where I don't get it right. So it's a great tutor. I love to use it as a tutor. I know software developers use it to generate code.
Yes.
So there's so much you can use it for to learn. It's an incredible learning tool.
Yes.
All right. So it sort of leads us to where the next slide was as a new owner orientation. One of the things I also tested was, let me give you an example. What's that thing on the front of the camper that you use to raise and lower the front of the camper? and it came back and it gave me the name of the trailer jack or tongue jack. So if you don't know what something's called, you can describe it and it will tell you what it is. It can summarize steps or manuals. This is just like you were saying, that it can teach you whatever you need it to. It's really, I will say, you are a RV repair expert. Help me figure out how to, and then whatever it is. And
Yes.
sometimes when I don't even know how to write a smart question, I'll say, what kind of questions should I
Should I
ask
I know.
in order to, and it'll give you, or how should I write a prompt to, and it will give you actually what you should type in to get a better response, which
Yeah.
is fascinating. So you
Incredibly
don't have to
helpful.
be an expert. Just
Exactly.
just sort of be honest and transparent with it. Tell it, what you need to do or what the circumstance is. And the more detail you give it, the better the response you'll get. Now,
Yeah.
that said, if you know things, the more information you give it, the better response you're going to get. So use what you know about something to ask better questions, to ask better prompts, because you're going to get better feedback as a result.
Now, I see something here I want to ask you. So, are you saying, do you know in ChatGPT, can you upload a picture? Can regular people like me upload a picture? Okay, that's something I had not noticed. So, that's incredibly helpful too.
Yeah, you'll at least in Copilot, and I think in Chat GPT, you see a little plus sign. And not
Oh,
only can you can upload a manual, like a
yeah,
document, you can
yeah.
upload a picture, anything that is context or reference for the chat agent can be used to help you understand. I have tested the photo upload to identify parts before as well, and it
That's
was
cool.
very effective,
That's cool.
surprisingly effective.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, I'm curious. Those are the three. These aren't the only three use cases for people. These are just three I thought of. I'm curious. As we were talking, has anybody thought of anything they want to try with an AI agent that maybe they haven't tried yet? Annette, is there anything else that comes to mind for you while people are responding in the chat?
I just
Or
thinking.
or or is there anything else you have tried or anybody in the audience has tried with an AI agent that they were just sort of blown away about how useful it was?
I think my original blow away thing was the summarization. My husband likes to read old literature, old, like from the 1800s, and he will copy and paste things in there to summarize it and to modernize the language. So the summary
Mm,
feature is beautiful. Facebook helps me write works well. Oh,
yeah.
Facebook help me write works well. Yeah, that it's built into Facebook now, isn't it? And the meta, is that the meta something? I'd have to look at my phone. I see it all the time.
Yeah, but
That's the
even when you go to reply, there's like on my, I think it's on my phone keyboard. I don't know if it's on my regular one, but
yeah.
there's a little thing that says "Help me write," and that's
Yeah, help
AI
me
helping
write.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
write a reply.
Yeah. And some people will say, you're losing your ability to really write. And at this point in my life, I don't have to write right. I just need to get things done fast and like plan things and like make decisions and all that. And so I agree, maybe for a younger generation, they won't gain the ability to write perhaps like they need to. But for where I am in life, it's saving me a lot of time and I'm just very pleased. So Pat saying this is amazing. I'm on Chat GPT right now, and in less than 30 seconds, it gave me pretty much the same camping route I've been plotting for 2 months from Maryland through Shenandoah to the Smokies. I love that.
Yeah.
And then Susie's asking, will you talk about how to actually get to ChatGPT at some point? Because Susie's like, how do I even do this on the internet?
Nat, how do you do it?
Okay, so here's what I do, Susie. If I started on the computer. So if you go to https://. I don't know if you need that, but I just type in chatgpt.com is a website. And once you go there, you'll see like a box where you put your prompt, which Jen will talk about in just a moment. And then your answer will pop up as well. So it's as simple. And then I have pinned that to my favorites bar in my laptop browser. And so I'm there just like that. But when I hover over my save thing, it's basically just chatgpt.com. That's the easy one that most people are getting familiar with initially. So Susie, try that and then let us know if you're not getting there, and we can give a little more guidance. But that's what I do. I mean, I just Googled it initially and I found that site, and that's what I've been using ever since. And then I can also get to it on my phone in the same way through a browser on my phone. I don't know if there's
or you can,
is there an app?
yeah, there's an app for that and
Okay.
Copilot. Google seems to have Gemini baked into the search now. And when you do, if you use Microsoft Bing as a search engine, which is bing.com, it has Copilot baked in, and there'll be a little Copilot signal that you can launch. So it's very helpful, to have it on both the phone and computer.
Bobby wants to know if she or he, I'm not sure, can be taught how to winterize the new 360 this spring and next fall. Yeah. Right?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
We can experiment. Maybe if we have time, we'll experiment with that. But I wouldn't be surprised. It's great at step-by-step instructions. What you'll want to make sure is that there's a good chance if it gives you step-by-step instructions, it'll give you like a little footnote. It might have a little 1 or a 2 that shows you where it pulled the information from. Go to the source material just to make sure it's accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, Susie's getting some good tips here. She's going to try it. Yay, you go.
Love that. Love that. All right. So the next section we're going to talk about is prompt writing. And prompt writing is a more formal way of just how do I do a search? How do I use a chat GPT? How do I use a Copilot? And they call it prompt. It's a prompt. It's the text that you put into the box or the things that you say, because you can do a voice prompt writing now as well. The things that you say to trigger a response from the AI agent. Scott's asking, I'm assuming ChatGPT can be location aware. That's a great question. I think so, but I've never used it like that. Have you, Net?
No. And I'm thinking for that situation, Scott, I would just Google that. That doesn't really need the features of ChatGPT. But if you were planning a trip, I don't know. I would have to experiment with that. Like if I'm planning a trip, say out to Glacier, and I'm like, I want restaurants in that area, it does figure out that. But I have said I'm going to Glacier and I want restaurants in the area rather than just it knowing where I am. So that's a good test.
What I might do, especially if I were going to Glacier, is ask it, where can I find the best huckleberry pie on the west side of Glacier National Park?
Yeah.
And I prefer a place that serves it warm with ice cream.
Ice cream.
And has good coffee. So instead of just a good Italian restaurant, it's like one that serves highly rated chicken Alfredo with excellent bread.
House dressing. Yeah.
Exactly. Where you can tell all your favorites. And it's going to help you find something that's a better match for your favorites versus just, here are the 5 best Italian restaurants, or here are 5. They're not always even in Google, the 5 best results. It's sometimes you get the sponsored results. So sometimes I'll say, give me the best local dining, based on, and I give it some criteria. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's sort of how I go about it.
Yeah, Pat's asking now, she has a trip route. So Jen, are you going to be in like chat or Copilot so you can show how to copy to the clipboard and then grab? Yeah, we'll show you that. Yes, Holly, you can put all of that in all of that. That's the difference in my mind between ChatGPT and just Googling it. You can tell it all of these details and it'll give you some really good results.
So I can't wait to do the trip planning one. So let me pull that up because I think it's going to be a little mind-blowing. So I'm going to try. If you're on a phone, this is going to be hard to see. So we'll try to say it out loud. Let me see here. All right. So you're going to see the screen here for a second.
I'll tell you when I can see it. Okay. And then were you going to make it large, enlarge it so we can actually read it?
It's pretty large. Can you not read it?
Oh, okay. Now I can read it. Yeah. And I'm
Yeah,
not
if
a,
you're on a phone, you're probably going to struggle to read it. So we'll say it out loud.
yeah.
So at the very top, and I asked ChatGPT to help me write this prompt, by the way, help me come
And let
up
me
with a
say
prompt
one
format.
thing. Let me just clarify one thing. So for the people that are brand new to this, all of this is the prompt that we would put into ChatGPT in the box that accepts the information. Like all of this in one fell swoop. And now, Jen, go ahead. It's like all
Yeah.
done at once.
So I have found it helpful when I have a complex search, when I'm looking for complex information, to write it in like a OneNote or a Microsoft Word, and just copy and paste it in. That way I can edit it and go back and add things. And when I'm ready to do it, I can just dump it in. So that's what I've done with this. I'm in Microsoft Word and I have a project prompt. And the prompt is create a table with a detailed itinerary and road trip plan for an RV owner planning a cross-country, multi-destination road trip. And then I have some conditions. The content should be geared toward novices. It must not use jargon. It should be simple and easy to follow. You could, these aren't great conditions actually for this one. I think I carried them over from something else, but it could be, it should be, I prefer interstates versus back roads. I prefer to avoid toll roads. I prefer scenic routes, or the route should be open all year. So if you're going maybe late fall and certain roads are closed or certain border entry points are closed, it won't route you through it. So those are some of the types of things you could put in conditions. Under requirements or the design, you could have things like should include Yellowstone National Park, should start and end locations are Columbus, Ohio. Driving range per day is 275 miles to 325 miles. The start date is September 21st, 2025. The length of the trip total should be 3 weeks. And then I get into some of the things I prefer, like scenic routes. It's a mix. I want a mix. I don't want all of one or the other, and interstate travel. I want you to suggest some activities at each park. I prefer easy to moderate hiking under 5 miles, landscape and nature photography, and wildlife photography. Recommend a local dining option for each day with a moderate budget. Include one Walmart grocery store each week. Indicate what likely weather will be based on historical information for each location. Recommend highly rated campgrounds for each night. I prefer state park, national forest, national park, or BLM campgrounds if possible. Recommend other national and state parks that are popular destinations along the route. So as you can see, I've put a ton of detail in. So I'm going to do I just hit Control A to select all this text. And I'm going to hit Control C, which is the copy function in Microsoft Word. I'm going to come to
Okay, there we go.
Copilot, and I'm going to paste it into Copilot. I'm going to hit the little key, and it's going to think. Hopefully it'll think quickly. Look how quickly that came back.
Oh, it's a nice table. I can't read it, but we can see it's a nice table. It has columns. Just read what those column titles are, Jen.
Yeah. So column 1 is day. We have destination, mileage, activities, dining options. It gives you a campground recommendation. I'm going to have to scroll down to slide over. And it gives me the weather. So I know there was a question asked about like, okay, so I've got it. What do I do with it? Well, there's a couple ways you can copy it. There's a little, I'm not seeing, of course, I'm not seeing the clipboard button. Usually there's a little clipboard button.
What's behind that bar? What is that bar that's showing up, Jen?
This bar?
Yeah.
That's the search bar. So if I wanted to add more, here's the copy button. So down at the bottom, it's saying, do you like this response? Is it not good? Do you want to make it's asking me if I want to make any refinements. I think, no, this is a great starting point. So I'm going to come down here to this little, what looks like multiple pieces of paper, and that says copy message. And I'm going to copy it. I'm going to take it over to where I was doing my prompts in Word. And I'm going to start by inserting a page break just so it's clean. And I'm going to come down here and hit Control V like Victor, and that pastes everything. Now that didn't paste. We went through this. It did paste the table.
What did we have to do? There was a way. I thought there was a way for you to
Yep.
retain the table.
Yep. So what we did is we went to the table. Oh, it didn't save it this time. It usually saves it as a table. Let me try it. We did.
Writing that down.
We just pasted it, and it saved it.
Okay.
So let me try one other thing, because we did test this.
Yeah, we did. I forget what you did.
I think we did something like this.
Like that. Okay. So, Pat, you'll see as she's doing this, you will also see that clipboard option in ChatGPT. So you just clip it and go paste it somewhere. That's what I've always done.
So I just selected it. I'm hitting Control C. I'm going to come back over and see how we did here. That kept the formatting.
Yeah.
And so then I come over here, select the table, table design, and did all borders. There are all borders.
Yep. It's so awesome.
So as you can see, it's not perfect, but boy, does it give you a head start.
So I'm
curious, is it
from Matt? I'm sorry, Jen, I don't mean to interrupt. He's saying that the first prompt does not have to be all inclusive. So that is exactly right. What Jen did here was made an all inclusive prompt, because we were speaking together and like, well, you like these kinds of campgrounds and you want to go to Walmart once a week. If you know all that information, that you can put it in. But as Matthew's pointing out, you don't have to do that all in your first.
Agreed.
You can just say, oh, I forgot. And keep that conversation going. So you get results. If you continue this session, you just say, oh, and I forgot to say, I like BLM campgrounds. And, oh, I forgot to say, avoid roads that prohibit campers. Lisa, you would just say that, make sure to avoid roads that prohibit campers, that kind of thing. So, oh, and she got it. Yay, Pat. So good. So we have a new user. Woo! Makes me happy. Yeah.
So Susie asked, do you recommend primarily using this on a computer? I use it on everything. I use it on whatever device I'm on. Now, if I'm doing trip planning like this, I find it in general easier to work off a PC, although there have been many a trip planned right from my phone. So
Jennifer,
many a trip planned in 5 minutes.
Yeah, so I do the same, because I like to copy and paste, just like Jen's putting it in a Word doc. I just save everything, all my trip planning stuff on my computer. I would find it hard to do that kind of work on my phone, but it certainly is possible. But I do little stuff all the time on my phone, all the time. So
I've done major things on my phone. It's crazy, but. And thus, you see, I have a new pair of glasses because I can't see as well as I used to.
Yeah. So Jennifer, tell us, she's like, you've opened up a zillion new possibilities. So I would love to hear or have you type a couple of the possibilities if you're willing to share. But
I'm really curious, not just Jennifer, but anybody. Like, what is it you want to try when we're done with this session tonight? What is it you're going to start trying to use any type of AI agent for? Because I come up with different thoughts almost every day of things to try. And I have an ongoing conversation about this.
Have you thought about this? We should try this. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's fun to have a friend to learn it with and to share tips and share ideas and to share the different use cases for. And I hope
crazy and they're excited about it too. So if you're trying to learn, find someone else and teach them, and then have that back and forth about the ways to use it. Because some of my friends are like, I don't even know, you sound like you're talking another language. I don't even know what you're talking about. So it helps to find someone who is kind of on the same wavelength, trying to learn the technology is what I find.
Yeah. And if you come up with tips that we didn't cover tonight, come back and share it in the comments, because we're still learning. This is such a fast changing technology. I feel like it's almost it's really hard to keep up with it. The way the technology is evolving and the effectiveness of it, and they're expanding the uses of it. I'm using it in a lot of different I use it with photography for different things. I'm not creating new imagery. I'm not, but I'm using it to speed up my editing process. I use it in some of my YouTube work. I use it in my, my life as a business consultant. Net and I know each other from that space, and it's transformed my daily work quite a bit.
Yeah.
Scott says he's leaving for Arizona in the morning. I saw your comment about Nixie. Rocky reacts the same way, Scott. He gets so excited when he sees the camper. Scott mentioned on Facebook that Nixie was super excited to see the camper come out.
I love that. Love that.
Yeah. It's interesting because one of the things I dabble with is weather and weather models. And I will ask it not just like, what's the weather going to be, but based on the latest trends in weather models, what are the chances that I used it at Christmas time? What are the chances that it will snow between Christmas and New Year's more than 1 inch between Cleveland and Pittsburgh? And it gave me really a great detailed answer. And it was very informative. It really helped shape the way I was planning the way I travel.
Yeah. Yeah, the packing list. Susie's intrigued about the packing list. How would you do that prompt? Just like develop a packing list. Yeah.
If I were Susie, I would say, I own a Tab 320. I don't know which one Susie has. And I'm packing for a trip for 5 days to blank at this time of year, whatever the dates are. I always overpack. Help me pack like a minimalist. Coach me. You might say, coach me to create a packing list that allows me to use the same things over and over. You could even tell it what clothes you have and ask it to help you filter through. You could ask it to, as if it was, what's her name, Marie Kondo? Like, you are Marie Kondo, helping me pack. Yeah, help me pack my camper. I use that, like, I'll use it with writing. I'll say, using the voice of Jimmy Stewart, for example, one of my favorite ones to use because he's so warm and friendly. Or, you are an accounting expert, or you are a agile coach. And I'll give it different personas to play in order to coach me. And I'll ask it to coach me. It's really sort of mind-blowing. But again, the more context you give it, the more effective the responses are going to be.
Yeah, I love that. One fun thing, this has nothing to do with camping, but you know how maybe it does. Maybe you're trying to honor somebody at a camping event and you want to rewrite the words of a song to be appropriate for that. You can tell it to, write me a song about my friend Jenn, who has a tab, blah, blah, and a dog named Rocky, and she loves to do this, and she's super talk, all the things you know about Jenn, and, make it to the tune of Country Roads, whatever. And it will like write you a song. It is, or a poem or whatever. It'll just, you give it all the details and it will write you a song.
We have done that around the dinner table at the Grover house.
I bet you have.
That was one of the very first things we did, and it was so much fun. We laughed so hard. And then we'd say, no, we did it with one song, and it actually killed Rocky off in the song. This was early chat GPTs, and we were like, no, you cannot kill Rocky off. So we said, revise it. And so it was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And it rewrote it, and, Rocky no longer was killed off in the song. But
sometimes I'll ask for, 5 examples of this, and it'll give me 5, and I will say, oh, those are kind of lame. Those are kind of lame. And it'll be, oh yeah, you're right, they are. And then it'll try again. It can be like you're talking to a person. Obviously you're not, but it's just fun to give it some feedback like that and see how it responds.
Somebody just asked to share the original prompt, and I just pasted it in the chat. So it looks like it split it into multiple.
Yeah.
Can't get around that, but it's very helpful.
And you can copy. I'm able to copy this out.
Great. And Larry just asked if I would show how to copy again. So I'm going to pull up, let me reshare the screen.
Oh, Jenn, and also talk about the history. I don't know how Copilot works, but ChatGPT retains history of your sessions. Does Copilot as well? Because that can be
It
helpful
does.
back to a previous
Yep.
work.
Yep.
And I think you can still copy even in that case if you forgot.
Yep. Yep. You could definitely go back to your history and copy from there. So, Larry, you can copy one of two ways. You can either come down to the bottom of a prompt, and it looks a little different in ChatGPT, but there's a similar functionality. And there's a little copy, and it will copy everything in this to the clipboard. Or you can actually highlight the text, and you can either right click. Well, you can't right click in the Copilot app, but you can hit Control C, like
Control C.
Charlie, and it will copy for you.
And then the history, Jen.
Oh yeah, Matt asked about the budget, and Nat, you mentioned the budget when we were talking, that you can give it a budget. So that's a great idea. That if that's something you use in your trip planning, I have the budget pretty much down in my head, so I don't even think about that because I know about how much a 5,000-mile trip is going to cost me, because I've done it enough times. But you can add budget constraints. Like you could even, like in your meal or activities or campground, say, I don't want to pay more than $20 a night for a campground, or less than, or somewhere between $20 and $40 if you had a range. You could also do things like find a campground once a week that has laundry facilities so that I could do my wash if you're going on a long trip. It just seems like, what are the other type of things you might want to put in there? Can you think of any, Nat?
Well, I know for meals, and we already alluded to this, I will sometimes say I want budget meals or I want moderately priced meals, like just knowing that kind of information. And I don't give it a dollar amount because sometimes $20 is an expensive meal in a given area and sometimes it's a cheap meal. So I start by just saying budget or moderate. I'm never luxury. I'm always budget. Sometimes I'll go up to moderate because I want to do as many trips as possible. So I want to spend as little. I want to be as budget minded as possible. But we did that. We said budget for the dining option. I see it in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's always important to me. Yeah.
You could probably ask it to estimate how much that trip would cost you.
Yes. Wouldn't that
I've
be
never tried it, but I'm sure you could.
Yeah.
Oh, Sheila, what a great idea. Meal planning before a trip.
That's
Yeah, you could put in people's dietary restrictions or preferences. If you were doing a certain type of diet, you could ask it to, like if you were a paleo diet person, you could ask it to, and you could give it constraints like, I won't have electric, so it has to be stuff I can cook on either my stovetop or a camp grill. Or I hate mushrooms.
Jen, and we have four kids and 6 adults, and we're in a rental. This is not camping. Sheila, that's such a brilliant idea because we always struggle with like what kind of meals, and especially with us, 4 of us are flying and 6 are driving, and so I need to be cooking meals. Or I'm not going to a grocery store. I'm buying a whole bottle of something what am I going to do at the end? I need to be able to buy and prep things when I can't take stuff with me. So love that idea.
Take it to the next level, Nat. Ask it to create a meal plan that allows you to use many of the same ingredients. So if you're buying
over again.
Yes. And make a shopping list for you.
Yeah. I can't wait to get off this call to go do that. I'm kidding. I'm enjoying this, but it's like, I want to go do that right now.
So as you can see, we're always learning about new ways to use it. I don't think there are enough hours in the day to think about the different applications for it.
Yeah.
I think where you'll start to see it in the future is I think it's already in the background in our reservation systems, but I think you're going to see a lot of ultra personalization in some of the campground reservation systems within the next 5 years, where it will remember your preferences, and probably before you even put in what you want to do, it might start offering you campgrounds based on your reservations or your preferences. It might say, when are you traveling? And it might automatically come back with what's available based on those type of things. I think I've used it already to help me find locations that would be good for Starlink. So campgrounds with open skies or campgrounds with strong Verizon signal. I've used it to go ahead, Net.
I just thought of one. So I like international dark skies, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
you get those out west without even trying, but around here where I live, it's hard. So I'm thinking, I international dark skies is a certification, and those are much more
Oh,
limited. But you can be like right next door to an official international dark sky and still have a dark sky. That's really important to me. I'm going to start adding that in with my camping. It's like, where can I see? Because I have a niece who has a big telescope and wants to see the sky, and we can't see it here. So I'm going to plan that trip and put that qualification in. It's
yeah.
just
And if
something.
you have a niche interest, like
Yeah.
let's say you collect a certain thing, you could work that into your search. Let's say you really love going to zoos, you could put that in,
Mhm.
or if it's rare historical markers, or
Mhm.
you could use it as an Oregon Trail tour guide, any of this.
Yeah. Love it.
RV Life is working very well now for setting up tips. Larry, tell us more about that. I have a rough idea of what you mean, but I'd be curious if there's more than what I'm using it for. So does it read your cookies like other apps due to remember your interests, or is it just remembering your prompts? I don't think it reads your cookies,
Yeah.
Matt. It depends. I think it's probably a depends question. It depends on the AI tool and how you're using it.
Hmm.
You'd
Agree.
want to read the terms and condition of each AI tool. I'd hate to make a blanket statement. But back to, I don't know if you were on, Matt, when we said you do want to be careful about the information you put into the large language model, because if you're not using some type of protected AI agent, like I have at work a Microsoft professional copilot, so it doesn't retain the information into the large language model. But if you're using just the public copilot, it would retain it. So you wouldn't want to put
Hmm.
proprietary information, personally identifying information, things like that in it.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
Yeah. So I feel like we just scratched the surface of this, Nat. We could have probably spent half a day on this.
Yeah. Yeah. And it'd be so fun to be like an actual conversation with folks and just to have them be able to expand on what they're thinking. It's hard. I know it's hard when you're typing, but there's just so much potential. And I think some people are beginning to see that. So for me, that was a goal, right? I suspect
Yeah.
that was a goal for you.
Yeah, and hopefully make it a little less scary for people who haven't tried it, or help them understand how. I know, when I first started thinking about it, it was like, well, I don't know that it'll really help campers. And then I started thinking about it. Oh, yeah, it's really going to help us as campers. Just endless. So I'm curious if you're going to try this. If you haven't tried it, how many of you have already tried it and had not tried it before tonight? And I'm also curious, if you haven't tried it, what's the first thing you're going to try when you go log into ChatGPT or Copilot? I know Net's going to go do a meal plan. That's her next.
Packing list. Yeah.
Pat's already got it to
Yeah.
format her 3-week itinerary into a table. Sheila, I thought about that. That's a great question. She wants to know, is it bad to use dates? It's not going to put your dates out into the internet. I think there's very little risk of that.
And your
Like
home. Like
right.
your home. Yeah.
If I said, when is Sheila Lally going on vacation? I don't think it's going to give me an answer to that.
Yeah.
Bonnie said she used it in conjunction with RV Life. Yes, Bonnie. I will sometimes say use sites like Campendium, RV Life, The Dirt, and other top-rated
Okay.
campground and RV park sites to search.
Mm-hmm.
Julia's a little paranoid. That's okay.
Okay.
You don't have to do everything at once.
Yeah, that's true. It's already in many apps. Yeah.
Natchez Trace in May. Yeah, that's a great park. I like Natchez Trace. And I think if you're thinking of the state park in Tennessee, it's so pretty.
Mississippi? Isn't it Mississippi?
Tennessee, West
Is it?
Tennessee.
Yeah,
All right.
good.
Well, I think we're at time and the football game is still on. So I appreciate everybody taking a little time out on a Sunday night. Net, thank you so much for joining us
Pleasure.
tonight and sharing your
Really,
experience. It's always
yeah,
fun. And
likewise.
we'll see you all soon at the campground. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye.